Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be looking at how to create an advanced spline-based road which will be created using the PCG from Unreal Engine 5. So in this video I'm going to teach you how you can create this spline-based road over here and how you can use this procedurally into your game. If you take a look at the spline-based path, this is one piece of geometry, but it's randomizing different assets from this component, and that is how we achieve this AAA look without having a lot of repetition over here. Alright everybody, so let's start creating this PCG spline based path. If you watch my previous video, you already know that my channel is demonetized, so I've decided to switch to Patreon. Becoming a Patreon member, you'll support me and this channel to keep evolving, to keep creating more and more interesting videos. Besides that, you have access to all the files that I've created from the start of my YouTube channel. So right now you can download the water shader, you can download the auto material from my previous video. If you didn't watch it, go and watch it. And you can have access to more in-depth videos about how the things work, like the auto material, the water shader, and a few more videos. And also you will have access to a VIP Discord server only dedicated to my Patreon members, where I am active most of the time. So if you want to support the growth of this channel and if you want to see more and more videos like this, go to my Patreon page, enroll now, and also you will have access to everything that I'm creating. Thanks everyone. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to download assets from Quixel and Epic Marketplace. I downloaded the European Beach, which includes different kind of trees. This is free package. You can download it from the Epic Marketplace. The second thing you need to define is what kind of environment you want to create. You want to create desert, you want to create forest, you want to create a beach or something else. Then open Quixel Bridge from here and click Quixel Bridge and select a collection of assets in the type of environment that you want to create. After that, just import them into Unreal Engine. After you import them, you're going to have a rich library from where you can choose your 3D elements in order to scatter around and create your path piece. Then the next step is to create a folder, which I called PCG. The second folder I created is actors, and in this actor I have my PCGs, which the first one is the BP PCG Spline. We're going to go back later to this one to create it. The second folder will hold my assets. I've created another folder which is materials, and I have test materials. This is just for the testing while I'm developing my PCGs. And I have a floor grid, which is this one, just for the sake of testing. After you created your assets folder, then you need to create a graphs folder. In this graphs folder, right click, create a new folder, and call it Spline Graph. In the Spline Graph, we're gonna hold our graphs for the PCG splines, for the PCG forest, etc. Then I created one more folder, which is Levels folder, and here I'll be including examples for each of the PCG elements that I'm creating for my Patreon members. All those examples and a lot more tools that I've created are available on my Patreon if you want to straight download them and use them in your game. And the final one is PCG custom nodes. Those PCG custom nodes are from Electric Dreams demo, which you can download from the Epic Marketplace. So far, I used 3 types of custom nodes. The first one is Apply Hierarchy. So download the Apply Hierarchy. The second one is PCG Copy Points with Hierarchy. This is also provided by Epic Games in the Electric Dreams demo. And the final one that I'm using is PCG Post Copy Points Offset Indices. Those 3 nodes, I'm going to provide them for free download on my Patreon page. Alright, so let's start with the actor. The first thing that you need to do here is you need to create a blueprint, and I'm just gonna create a new one. Right click, blueprint class, select actor, and I'm gonna name it BP PCG Spline _1. I want to create it from scratch, so I'm gonna double click on it. And what you need here is 2 elements. The first element is to include spline, and the second one is to include the PCG graph. So I'm gonna hit add, and I'm gonna search for spline. I'm gonna click spline, and I'm gonna select for my category, I'm gonna select actor. The second thing that we need to include here is the PCG graph itself, which we are going to create. So I'm gonna hit add again, and I'm gonna search for PCG. I'm gonna click over here to the PCG. And here in the PCG instance, we will need to call the graph that the PCG will work with. But so far we did not create the graph. Let's go and create the graph, and then later on get back here and connect it. So I'm gonna hit compile and save. The next thing that we need to create is this piece of art that we are going to use to repeat over the spline. How you're gonna create this? I've created a new level, so you're gonna need to go to File, New Level, and create an empty level without lightning. Then in this empty level, I scatter around a lot of objects over here. As you can see, let me just show you. maximize, I started creating our ground and the side of our path by scattering around a lot of objects. So I've placed some rocks here, I've placed some foliages, here I've placed trees, etc. So on a separate scene, on a blank scene, just scatter around some objects over here, and once you're done, you're gonna save this scene. And after you save your scene, you need to create a PCG settings from this scene. And how to create a PCG settings from this scene? Select the scene which holds the part that will be repeating on the spline. Right click on the scene, go to the scripted asset action and choose PCG level to PCG settings. Click on it and it will create this piece, which is a PCG settings. We're going to use these PCG settings to feed up our PCG graph. When you double click on your PCG settings, it will have a blueprint element type of PCG asset. I gave the node's title PCG ground 1, as this will be the ground piece 01 that I'm going to use. You can define seed. For the category, I've added asset, and for the description, I've added PCG asset node. So far, so good. We've created the PCG spline and we've created this example piece. Take your time to scatter around those pieces in order for you to get something good looking. After you created your PCG ground 01 scene without lighting, any post-process, etc., just pure geometry that will define your spline ground, what you can do is you can drag this scene into your new scene where you're going to test the spline. So I'm just dragging and dropping, and we're creating a level instance of it. And this is pretty handy because we don't need to go back to the spline example and start tweaking if something is repetitive. What you can do is select the level instance, click edit, then you're going into the scene of the PCG ground 01 included in the current scene. So I can start tweaking up some things over here. And when I click Control Save and exit, this will be rebuilt and it will affect my PCG spline straight away in this new scene. All right. So this is a good workflow to work on your piece over here and see how it works. But right now I just saved it and exit, and this is not changing. And it is not changing because every time you make a save over here, you need to refresh the PCG settings. And how to refresh them? Select your piece, right click, script asset action, and click PCG level to PCG settings. All right. If you don't refresh your PCG settings, you're not going to see the result over here. Let me just show you pretty quickly. If I go here to edit, let's say I move this rock all the way over here. I click save, exit. This rock is not over here. It is still over there. But if I right click, script asset action, PCG, you can see that the update is reflected. So don't forget to update your PCG settings. So far, so good. We've created the piece that we are going to use. We've created the PCG settings. I'll show you how you can import your piece inside your level so you can start working straight away on it and see the results in real time. The next step is to create the spline graph. So let's create the spline graph from scratch. I'm going to right click, PCG graph. I'm going to name it PCG spline graph _1. I'm going to double click on it. The first thing you need to do is you need to instance the piece that we've created, so this one. So go to your spline example, select your PCG ground 01, and if you try, pay attention to this. If you try and left click and drag and drop it over here, the green check says that it can be dragged here and it will create something. I release my left click, nothing is created. If you want to create an instance from the PCG settings, you need to hold Alt key on your keyboard. So holding Alt on my keyboard and dragging over here, I create the PCG instance. Don't forget that. So after we instance the PCG ground piece, we need to get the attribute from the point index. So I'm going to right click, attribute from point index. I'm going to duplicate this because we're going to use this 2 times. And then I'm going to connect my root over here in the first one and my points in my second one. I'm going to select the first one, and here for the input source, I'm going to put $, and then I'm going to set bounce max. Then for the output attribute name, I'm going to put bounce max scale. I'm going to do vice versa for the second one. I'm going to select the input source. I'm going to put $, and this will be my bounce min. And for the output attribute name, I'm going to put bounce min scale. All right. Then we're going to append those 2 boundaries. So I'm going to right click, search for append attribute sets, and I'm going to connect my first attribute and my second attribute. No need to touch anything here in the append attribute sets. The next step is to get the input from our actor and make a spline sampler. So I'm going to open this, and from our actor, I'm going to search for spline sampler. It will add a filter curve, don't worry about it. So here for the subdivision per segment, I'm gonna leave it to 1 and then we're gonna come back and tweak it up. The next step is to create a bounce modifier. I'm gonna right click, bounce modifier, and I'm gonna open here from the arrow and I'm gonna connect my output from the append attribute to overrides and the output from my spline sampler to the bounce modifier. For the min and max, I'm gonna put zeros everywhere. The next node that we are going to need is attribute noise. So I'm gonna drag here and I'm gonna choose attribute noise. Leave the settings to default and I'm just gonna choose for my seed to be 4. Then the next step is to create a point filter which will control the target attribute density. So I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna search for point filter. And this point filter, I'm gonna connect the attribute noise to the in over here. And this will stay density. It will have the operator greater. Then I'm gonna click use constant threshold. And here in the type, I'm gonna select float. The float type will be 0.5. And after that, the outside filter will go to transform points. So I'm gonna right click, transform points. I'm going to connect the outside filter to in, and I'm going to leave the transform points as default. Then I'm going to merge, so right click, merge, and connect the transform points to the merge node and the inside filter to the merge node. And right now it comes the time to use the PCG copy points with hierarchy from the Epic Games demo. So I'm going to select the PCG custom nodes, and I'm going to select this PCG copy points with hierarchy and drag and drop it into my PCG graph. I'm going to open this, I'm going to zoom in, and the merge will go to the copy points target. So I'm connecting it over here. And for the copy point source, I will need my points. So I'm going to drag over the way here and I'm going to clean up my graph pretty quickly. After that, we're going to start creating the magic of randomizing all the elements inside our chunk that will go across the spline. So the first randomizer will randomize the trees. So I'm going to create a point filter. I'm going to connect the output to the input over here. And inside this point filter, we need to make few adjustments. The first thing is use constant threshold, selected. And for the type, we need to select integer 64. In the value, select 1. For the operator, we need to select equal. And here for the target attribute, we're gonna say 3. In this target attribute, we use the tag of our 3D mesh. So each mesh that has this tag 3 will be transformed. Each mesh that doesn't include this tag will be ignored. So inside the filter, so if there is a tag 3, we're gonna transform points, right click, transform points. And I'm gonna connect inside filter to transform points. I'm gonna search for one more merge node, merge. And I'm gonna select my transform points and my outside filter. So each 3D object that has 3 tag will go here. We're going to transform some points and we're going to merge with all the other object that doesn't have this tag. I'm going to select everything. I'm going to comment and I'm going to name this trees. I'm going to change the color to black. Hit OK. In this transform point here, you select how you're going to randomize your trees across your level. So let's say we're going to scale them in to 0.5, to 0.4. Let's say the maximum size of the tree is 3.5. Let's say it can rotate from minus 180 to positive 180. Let's say it can rotate min to minus 20, max to plus 20. I'm going to do a little offset of 50 and here minus 50. And I'm going to do for the other axis 50 and again minus 50. All right, so those are the settings that works for me. The next layer that I'm gonna have is rocks layer. So I'm gonna randomize the rocks. What you can do, select this block, copy and paste it over here, connect this to the next point filter, rename this to rocks. Here in the point filter, just change the tag to rocks. And again, you want to give a different transform point to your rocks. You can put 0, 0, 0, let's say 1.3, 1.3, 1.3. Let's say for my offset, I'm going to put 15 and I'm going to put 20 over here. The next layer that I want to create is ground. So I'm going to copy and paste these rocks. I'm going to connect this to my point filter. And keep in mind that if you start merging too much, right now I'm merging like 4 times, the PCG will stop working. I don't know why, but it is the way it is. So if you need more layers than those 3, I'm going to show you how you can add more layers on top of those 3. But let's finish it first. So this will be ground. Select the point filter and give it a target attribute of ground. This is our tag. Then select your transform points and just slightly set up the scale min to 1. And I'm going to set up the scale max to 1.1. I'm going to put zeros to my rotation. And for this, I'm going to put 20 and minus 20. And for the offset, I'm not going to offset my ground at all. And after you created the ground layer, what you need to do is we need to apply the hierarchy. So I'm going to minimize, drag and drop, apply hierarchy, open it, and connect my output from the merge to apply hierarchy. After that, what is left is we need a static mesh spawner. So I'm going to right click, static mesh spawner. I'm going to connect the output over here to the static mesh spawner. And in order your PCG to grab the materials from this piece, because right now when you start spawning your mesh won't have materials over here and it will be gray, you need to click here by attribute material override, open it and add one index and name this material. So by putting here material, your static mesh spawner will spawn the mesh and will get the material information from the mesh and apply it to the PCG spline that we are creating. Keep this in mind. If your material is gray, you need to do this. All right, so far so good. But as I told you, if you need more layers, let me show you easily how you can create more layers and you can get rid of all those merges over here. The easiest way that I found out is by duplicating the point filter. And let's say we need here to be a bush tag. So I'm gonna name this bush. And I'm gonna transform points again because I'm changing all the elements, all the 3D object that has bush. I'm gonna connect the inside filter and I'm gonna connect it to merge. I'm gonna disconnect everything and I'm gonna connect it to merge. And what you can do over here is you can connect the outside filter from the ground, connect it to the point filter. So we are getting from here and we don't find anything that includes a tag ground. So we move forward to the operator, which includes bush tag. Then we transform everything that includes bush. And if we don't have this, I'm going to connect my outside filter over here to the merge. And from transform points, we go to the point filter again. So this will be, let's say, my grass layer. And if you want to add more, just copy those, paste them over here, and just move the merge and connect the final elements to the merge and connect each next element with the point filter and transform points to the next tag that you want to use. So this is the easiest way that I found out if you want to have a lot of more different tags over here in order for you to manipulate them and randomize them across your spline path. Now, after we create our PCG spline graph _1, what we need to do is we need to go back to our PCG, select the blueprint of the PCG, and here in the PCG, we need to select our instance. So I'm going to select here, and I'm going to choose my PCG spline graph 1. I'm going to compile and save, and we are ready to test. And one thing that we forgot is here in the PCG mesh selector weight, we need to select an attribute. So go and select PCG mesh selector by attribute. And after you select PCG mesh selector by attribute, you need to say the attribute name, which is mesh. And then we need again to by attribute material overrides and add material. Then click save after we make this fix. Then we are ready to test if our new created PCG spline graph _1 is working. I'm just gonna go to my PCG, select my PCG spline 1, drag and drop it. And as you can see, it is working pretty good. Now, how you can manipulate the spline. Over here, when you select your BP, here in the details, you can see your spline and you can select your endpoint of the spline and start moving it all the way over here. And right now, as you can see, we have only 2 pieces. This is normal because we didn't tweak them up. Just go back to your spline graph, click on your spline graph. And if you remember, guys, here we have a spline sampler. And from this spline sampler, when I select it, we can add a subdivision per segment. So if I add 2, you can see that we are adding more subdivisions from the segment. This is one segment, so we are adding 2. Let's add 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that is how you're gonna test when they start overlapping. So create one piece and start tweaking up and see how they're gonna start overlapping, all right? And in order for you to add tag, select your piece that you're working on, click edit, select the rock here. And if you want to add a tag, search for tag. And as you can see here, I've added the tag rocks. Each mesh that has this tag will start transforming and shaping from the PCG graph settings. My trees over here has this tree tag and so on. And right now you can see that you have this repetitive pattern and it's not working. And here, if it's not working, just double click on your PCG spline graph. And over here in each transform point, we need to apply to attributes. So click here, apply to attribute, and attribute name should be relative transform. Relative transform. I'm gonna hit enter, and now you can see that the trees start working. We're gonna do the same for the rocks. Observe here for the rocks. I'm gonna put here the apply attribute, relative transform, hit enter. You see the rocks start working. For the ground, do the same. You see how the ground moves. And for the grass, we're gonna do the same. Hit enter and our grass moves. Click save. And now you have your perfect path over here, randomizing a lot of elements in order to create this kind of path that you want with different kind of elements just from one single piece. And as you can see here, it looks pretty good. If you take your time to scatter around the elements correctly and break up this repetitiveness, you will have an amazing path tool that you can use in your games. So this is pretty much how you can create spline paths using the PCG tool. And in the next following videos, I'm going to provide you a lot of additional PCG tools that you can use in order for you to help you create your massive open world with just procedural tools and without a huge team of artists. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you are not subscribed to my channel, subscribe to the channel. And before I end up this video, I want to let you know that I've created a Blueprints Masterclass for Unreal Engine 5. It is available right now on Udemy. So if you want to expand your knowledge and not just only create art pieces in Unreal Engine 5, but create some characters, create some game logic, my course is the perfect solution from beginners to intermediate Unreal Engine 5 users. The course itself is 15 hours long and it has all the foundation that you need to kickstart your blueprint knowledge in Unreal Engine 5. So if you want to keep evolving yourself beyond just creating art in Unreal Engine 5, enroll now. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to support me and get access to all my files, also to the auto material that I've created previously, join my Patreon page for $4.99, and with your pledge you're supporting me to keep creating amazing videos like this. Each one of you can make a big difference by supporting my channel so I can keep making those videos. Thank you guys for watching this video. Happy game development. I'm out.